Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a transformational coach. I'm also the founder of Embody Me program and the creator of 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. You may also find me on the yoga mat leading yoga sessions and also running retreats here in Australia and internationally. Here on the podcast, I bring you some pretty incredible guests. We talk all things self-belief, body acceptance, personal development, outdated beauty standards, and we also call BS on the toxic diet culture, accepting the beautiful bodies we were born into, letting go of all the beliefs, and raising our self-awareness. I also come to you from time to time with a little solo episode, a little Life According to Emma moment. I'm so glad you're here. Enjoy. A big warm welcome to this week's episode of Celebrate a Sister podcast. Today, I am so happy to have my guest with me, the dear Elle Louise McBride. Let me tell you about her. Elle is a globally recognised trauma-informed havening techniques practitioner and trainer, as well as a neuro self-care expert, known for her holistic approach to mind and body wellness. With a strong background in corporate training and development, Elle has personally experienced the life-changing effects of havening, driving her commitment to share this powerful modality with others. Her dedication has earned her a reputation as a sought-after trainer and practitioner, delivering profound and lasting results. Welcome, Elle.
Thank you so much, Emma. So thrilled to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to chat. I'm mostly excited to share with everyone what you do and how you do it. And last week I had the absolute pleasure. Well, I met you a couple of weeks ago. You spoke at an event and it was a very moving talk, Elle, and you have an absolute presence and gift. And from my perspective, listening, just an authenticity. So thank you for that beautiful talk, sharing with all the women in the room your journey. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. It's so beautiful when people just connect at these, amazing events that get put on for us women. It's such a unique environment when you are vulnerable and take yourself to places that you don't usually go. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing like an in-person event too. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So that was fabulous. And then from then I said to you, I would love to have you on my podcast. And then you kindly said, come and experience havening. So we will get a little bit more into my experience that I had with you shortly. But I wanted to ask first, so for everybody listening, can you share firstly what havening techniques is and how that came about for you, but can you share your personal journey with havening techniques? What initially led you to this modality and how has it transformed your own approach to mind, body and wellness?
Yeah, of course. Oh, so thrilled. I love talking about havening. It's such a passion of mine. So the havening techniques are a set of protocols that you can use that really are revolutionary in the psychosensory scene. So using the body. Other psychosensory therapies are EFT, which is tapping, MDR, bilateral eye movement. Even yoga or Pilates can fall into this category as well. But within a session and within even just the shortest time frame of 15 minutes, a client can really truly downregulate and change the way that these lifelong memories are within us and really remove that from the mind-body connection. And so it's heavily based in neuroscience, but not only is it trauma, it really focuses on wellness as well as stress management in the moment. Life experiences. It was created by Harvard medical trained Dr. Ronald Rudin, along with his brother Stephen Rudin as well. And so the name really suggests that we're putting ourselves into a safe place, a safe haven. Havening originally was amygdala depotentiation, and I think havening just sounds a lot nicer. And so, it's really designed for those problems that are caused by traumatic encoding. So, for myself, I had been on, a bit of a personal development journey and just a life journey in general. My story is quite long. We take the whole podcast if I shared it all, but I'll share some highlights. So for myself, I at 23 decided to go and travel around the world, and I had been predisposed to some mental health battles in my teenage years, as well as being born into a family that was grieving. My parents had lost a baby just before I was born. And so there was a lot of subconscious beliefs that I shouldn't have been here, that it should have been my brother that survived. And for myself, I found myself at 23 in Las Vegas, of all places, and I had a panic attack. And in this panic attack, I was reassociated with trauma that I couldn't remember, is this mine? Is it not mine? Was it true? Was it not true? Was I this age? Was I that age? Did it happen like this? Did it happen like that? And for the next 3.5 years, I would go on to be continuously traumatized by these panic attacks that I would have, and this reassociation with trauma that I really couldn't understand and couldn't comprehend. And then with that came all of the shame of trying to understand, is it true? I didn't really know where I could go to or who I could talk to about it. And so when somebody is so heavily covered in shame, it becomes incredibly hard to talk about. So I was seeking professional help, but I would find that I would sit in these rooms and not be, I almost was looking for a mind reader. I wanted somebody to tell me what it was, because even the thoughts were so here, there, and everywhere. And along my journey, there was a lot of people that came into play, a lot of really unhealthy relationships that I was in, and I found myself visiting the Gold Coast. And I had lived on the Gold Coast before, and I had thought maybe I'd wanted to move back here, or maybe I wanted to go to Melbourne, all of these different places. But while I was visiting the Gold Coast, I walked into a coffee shop and I was introduced to a lady named Karen Hedges. And Karen had just been over in the UK and studied in a modality called havening techniques. And I didn't know anything about it. She sent me some videos, and I remember watching it thinking, yeah, that's too good to be true. That's a placebo. That's staged. It can't be that good. I'm so messed up. This can't work for me. But also at the same time being skeptical, but open-minded. And so I went into that session, and within, even for myself, that 15 minutes, I had this sense of freedom. I was able to take back my power. The session did go for about 2 hours, but in that time, I was able to really work through a deep-seated root of unworthiness, as well as these traumas that were just so puzzled in my mind. There was completion, and I almost felt like, and now even my clients and my students will say that, our clients will say, it's like I watched it in a movie, or I read it in a book. I can tell you the story now, but it's no longer mine. It's no longer the lens that I'm looking through. And so and it's not disassociation, you know the truth, but it's this really beautiful peace that comes, and this physical lightness that happens. And so I remember leaving that session and going and sitting on Burleigh Hill, and almost being like, there was no videos on YouTube. There was nothing that you could go and watch. There was no recordings. There was literally nothing. TikTok didn't exist. There was nobody out there doing anything. But there was this part of me that was like, well, what she did wasn't too hard. I stroked my arms. I used some very simple distractions like counting the alphabet and say counting to 20. And there had been another memory that for about 8 months I was in a really unhealthy relationship, and this partner had said something to me, and for 8 months I held on to this one single comment. And we do this, we hold on to yes, there's the big stuff, but there's also the little things that happen. So as I was sitting on Burley Hill, I thought of this memory and I started to use this very simple technique on myself, and it worked. And so anytime something would come up, I would simply use a tool of self-havening. I had no idea really what I was doing. I just would go with it. Within 3 weeks, I had left that relationship, packed up my life, and moved to the Gold Coast. And another 3 to 4 weeks later, the trainers were coming over from the UK for the first Australian training, and there I was sitting in a room. I didn't believe or feel like I belonged in that room. I remember thinking, I need the therapist. I can't become the therapist. And now 8 years later, I'm a leading practitioner globally, as well as a global trainer of havening techniques as well. And so, I really became my own client before I had my own clients. And I've really havened my life from, even now being able to sit with people and hearing their stories, and not until later being like, wow, that was so similar to mine, or wow, I understand their trauma, but it's this compassionate lens, not this empathetic lens. I am able to help people of all different walks of life with the tool of havening. And it is very deceptively simple. But as I started to learn more about it, and there's a lot of different protocols within this technique, it's not just stroking your arms and saying the alphabet. It really can go into so many incredible places. But yeah, that's just like a very short version of my story. Because yeah, like I said, we would be here if I went into all of the details. But I know that havening found me. I am very gifted within this. That's not egoic. That is just a simple truth that havening can and will help everybody. And it really is a mission of mine to get it in as many hands as possible for self-havening, or with clients, with my students now, working with their clients, that it becomes a household name and really does help humanity.
Wow. Elle, yes, havening did find you. And yes, you are gifted at it and incredible at it. So that is, it's, was your life path, your whatever we want to believe in, your dharma, your whatever, your God-given talent, or you're a healer, and there was going to be no other way. And it is interesting when you've gone through trauma and hardship, but it's to know it is to know it, and then to heal and to move forward, and then to help others. Clearly that was your path, your path.
Yeah. And it's always going to be, that's the beauty of it. With havening, it's a wonderful tool that you can use, have in your toolbox, when I get triggered, when I'm, I've not slept well, or whatever it might be, that I can bring myself back into this state, communicate, work with my brain, this incredible intelligence that we have that we're not taught how to use. We're taught how to drive a car, but we're not taught how to use our mind. So yeah, it's definitely an avenue that I love. I love that havening is so heavily based on neuroscience. It's not a practice that is energy. Like I said, I work with clients and I am lifted and up leveled, and I sit in so much excitement for them. And I've worked with all walks of life, from, you name it, the biggest of traumas to, just the light self-esteem stuff. Like it really can and will help everyone.
What are the biggest challenges your clients come to you with? Is it, so if for any of our listeners, and they're thinking, well, would havening be suitable for me?
Yeah.
Who comes to you, and what are they mostly seeking? And what's I'm typical is probably not the right word, but what would be the biggest barrier most of your clients come to you with?
Yeah, look, it's a loaded question. Majority of my clients are referral based. So somebody will have an incredible experience, they go away, they tell their people, and then their people are booking in. But essentially, it's to remove the emotional residue from these encoded memories, regardless on the scale of how traumatic they are, because we've got little traumas, we've got big traumas. It's also to heal those amygdala-based disorders like panic attacks, phobias, PTSD, childhood experiences that we've had. But then also, because it works in the wellness, it can work with removing those inner blocks so we can achieve those personal or professional goals. Now, I've worked with athletes, I've worked with performers, Grammy Award winners. It really can work with anybody on any of those scales, but it predominantly is within any of those blocks. Chronic pain. Feelings of, I worked with a client last week of claustrophobia. I worked with a first responder to a suicide just last week. I at nightmares, insomnia, uncontrollable crying. But what tends to happen, if I'm completely honest, Emma, is that somebody will come to me. And it's almost like I like to describe it as they'll come to me because of what's sitting on the table, what's the stuff that's presenting it, the stuff that they can see. And because havening creates this beautiful, safe place, because of the delta waves that are created, the serotonin, the oxytocin, it's this safe space to explore, that it no longer becomes about what's on the table. That's what gets them into the room. But once we're in the room and in the session, the legs of the table, right? It's the legs of the table, the stuff that's holding up. So people might come to me with fears of being terrified. We're very quick at being able to work out where that comes from. And so for havening, because we're reducing that cortisol, we're reducing the adrenaline really quite quickly. And it's not like other modalities. I'm a trained hypnotherapist as well as other techniques and tools and modalities, but predominantly known for havening, and that is the 99% of my work, maybe 90%. But for it, with hypnosis, if we start a session and we're interrupted, we need to go back to the beginning and start the session again. With havening, we welcome the interruptions. If I'm working with a client online and their doorbell rings, or their teenager walks in, or the dog starts barking, those things are okay. It's okay. We just go from where we are. So it really is, for people, sometimes we can have that fear of like, oh, I don't know what's going to come up. I don't know what the legs of the table are. But there's a beauty in being held in such a safe place that your mind will go, oh, thank you. I now have the opportunity to let this go.
Yeah.
This is that safe place where I can feel it, knowing that I'm going to let it go. I worked with one client who comes to mind as we're talking, and she'd been coming to see me fortnightly for quite a while. And with havening and with my practice, my goal isn't to see clients long term. So I remember we're at like 3 months of fortnightly sessions, and I'm thinking, she just keeps booking in. And I was like, not early on, but probably like 3 or 4 years into my practice. And I'm thinking, why does she keep booking in? Why aren't we getting there? But there was this real comfort, and she'd come in and we'd have this amazing session. She'd pay and she'd leave. And I was thinking, okay, I'm not, I won't complain about this, even though it just felt a little bit odd. It wasn't the standard. And then I remember she came in, she said, Elle, and I had spoken to her saying, no, I just want to make sure like we're getting you the results. Like with havening, it's a little bit different to other, we where are we at? I'm always speaking so openly with my clients. And then she came back in a fortnight or another month later, and she said, Elle, I'm finally ready to work on it. She said, I'm finally ready to let it go. And I'm thinking, haven't we it wasn't all the history taken. You know, I've got an intake form. I've asked all the questions, but she finally felt safe to go to that place that had been so hidden. And for her, she wanted to share her story. So for half an hour, 45 minutes, however long it took, she shared her life story with me. And then she was able to move through it and let the pieces that pained her go. But for us, I do believe that we were having a little conversation, you and I, before this, of like being held by a person that can hold it. And because havening isn't an energetic exchange, it's not, I'm going to take it and then go and do something with it. It is so protective of the practitioner that it is gone. It's a neurobiological change that is happening, a chemical change that is happening. Neurons are breaking apart that have been fired and wired together for so long. But for this beautiful client, she was able to share her story in a non-judgmental place and then truly let it go. I saw her for one session after that, and now I'm not sure where she is on her journey. But it's just so beautiful. Yeah, because I believe that, when these traumas happen, there's a few encoding reasons why some things impact us more than others. We probably don't have time to go into it, but for it, there has to be an event. That event has to hold meaning. The landscape of the time of the event has to be in a state of feeling vulnerable. And there's a sense of inescapability. So we look back on the memories that are still like living memories. They're still active. We still get triggered when we think about something that reminds us of that. We smell something that reminds us. We walk past a place that reminds us. We hear a word, whatever it might be. When these memories are still active, havening helps in taking those memories and bringing that resolution so those memories can move from, the active working amygdala and the thalamus and the cortex and really go to our hippocampus where our memory bank is, which is our mind remembering what we ate on our second day of grade 2, but we're not sitting here thinking about it, and that's what havening does with these memories. It's done it with the unwanted sexual experiences that I experienced. It's done it with the panic attacks that I had had. And then the fear of the panic attacks that I could have had. It's happened with stage performers that would get on stage and perform in front of 70,000 people and see one person yawn and think, I've got to get off the stage.
Yeah.
I've given the worst performance in my life because one person yawned. This person then was triggered. This client of mine would say I'd get off stage and I'd feel like everyone was walking on eggshells. I just want to go back to the hotel and just cry my eyes out, performing to 70,000 people.
Wow. And you see the one person.
You see the one person and it impacts us. So for us, for that client, oh my goodness, it was so wonderful. They were able to change it that this person had been up all night because their girlfriend had broken up with them. And they just got this whole new story.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, now I just kind of feel bad for the guy, but it's nothing about me.
Yeah.
We're so quick to make everything personable, right? And so yeah, there's just so many, even allergies. I've worked with clients that have had allergies and we've been able to remove that within one session. Yeah, it's just, yeah. I could
yes,
we could do a 24-hour podcast. Yeah.
We're talking about, the interesting case studies and because that's the thing here. It can be, so it's any reoccurring thought that you have. Now run through the reoccurring thought. You're in a vulnerable position. You couldn't
escape.
Yeah.
And there has to be a sense of inescapability. But that also can be, down to so many different things.
Yeah.
Reputation, right?
Yes.
I wasn't going to have a job, therefore I couldn't provide for my family. We need that sense of community, people around us, because when, if you look at the innate fears that we have, the fear of abandonment, Because if we're a baby that is left with no one to take care of us, we cannot survive by ourselves. So we have an innate fear of being abandoned.
Yeah.
An innate fear of heights because we don't have wings. We cannot fly.
Yeah.
Loud noises. Yeah. You walk into a room with a baby sleeping and you make a loud noise, that baby's going to cry. Yeah. So for us, they're the innate fears. Anything else is then a learnt fear.
Yeah.
Right? And anything can be a learnt fear. There's a stapler sitting in front of me right now. Somebody out there is afraid of these.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, had an experience.
Had an experience. That we make meaning to everything.
We do.
We make meaning to everything. So what's the meaning that we're giving something? Yeah. And so for my clients, it might be that the thing that gets them through the door is that they're afraid of a stapler, right? And they come and they go, I'm ready to work on that. But then they realize the meaning behind the reason behind that is because when they were a child, somebody threw a stapler at them. They witnessed a parent's argument and one parent threw a stapler at the other, that their sibling squashed their finger in a stapler when they were 5 years old, right? And now they can't go and work in an office because, it's just something that is just so simple. And I think that we look at trauma and we think, oh, trauma is for the first responders. It's for the police officers. It's for the AMBOs. It's for the people that are off to war. They experience trauma. Yes. And so does the child who has a stapler thrown at them.
Yeah.
Like it's that these things change us. These things change us.
And this is the thing, even the example of the stapler, right?
Yeah.
And playing, this is what I experienced when I came to you. And before we hit record, I said to you, it's one thing to work through, you've got this thing, an example of the stapler, right? It's like the silent repeat and replay of that no one even knows because you don't even usually share it. And that was it. And that was the interesting thing about the session with you last week, Elle, was I didn't have to tell you what it was. You just kind of said, in a rough way, like, what is it about? And because I'm all about on this journey of body acceptance, I thought, well, I'll go back to, not that you knew this, to one of my memories as a teenager, the first time I realized that my body was perceived as wrong or not good. And when you say about the legs of the table and the table, but it was funny how that one memory that we started to work through you take me through this beautiful process, how it then went to another memory, like the legs of the table, right? Which was just really interesting. And yeah, like just, wow, I didn't realize that they were connected, but they so are. Like, and I'd been carrying those around. And it's one thing to want to work through your stuff. And look, I'm a huge journaler. I'm a yoga teacher. I feel like I have quite a great, practice and mindset. However, when I sat with you, the power of being in your presence and what you took me through, I couldn't have done it alone. Like what I released, I couldn't have done that. What I let go of, I couldn't have. And what I even almost uncovered, I could not have done that alone. And I think it's Havening and your presence, Elle, of course, and that whole space and container. But I don't know, the process, just the touch, the calmness, it was just, powerful.
Yeah.
And like I just said to you, the next day I had to have a 2-hour sleep. Like it was huge. And it was only I was sharing with a friend about, my dearest friend, about and she was like, I didn't even know that about, she didn't know I was carrying that. And even I didn't even have to say it to you, Elle, yet it's let go.
That's really the beauty of this technique. It really is the beauty that, you didn't have to share with me.
No.
And that was worked through.
Yeah. And quite refreshing, can I say? quite refreshing. You know, there's one thing, yes, it's wonderful, the talk therapy modalities, and they absolutely have their place in this world, without a doubt. But sometimes you actually don't want to. Like it's, I think there's a really loveliness in that. There is a safety and it was just a different experience. Not to have to over explain it, justify it. I don't know. And, you know, I always love that story too, which is, you know, there's, you know, there's their story, your story, and the truth sits somewhere in the middle. But in this, you don't have to tell the story. So you're not trying to state your position or like none of that has to happen, which I think is real. Well, for me, last week, that was incredibly beneficial.
Yeah.
That I did not have to over explain, over justify, or get distracted. And sometimes it's hard to say. So then you kind of want to paint a prettier picture. Yeah. So that I feel like with havening is an incredible advantage in terms of healing this, that you don't have to justify yourself even to the practitioner.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. And that's it. We can go completely content free. I had no idea up until right now that that's what you worked on.
Yeah.
We can go content minimal where you share a little bit.
Yeah.
And then some clients, like the one that I shared before, really content rich,
Yeah.
right? Have never shared with anybody and just wanted one person to know. Yeah. One
But
person to know.
yeah, even that example of your client who did come for 3 months and it took that long for her to be even able to share to one person and ready to let go. Because I guess sometimes it does take time.
Yeah.
Things do take time.
And, you know, I'm working with people where it is the small stuff, but also the big stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That people have never unpacked, that people have never put together. And, you know, I love all of your kind words about myself and, you know, the space that I hold. That's so appreciative. And also it's a joint working together. I'm bringing my expertise, my knowledge, my trauma-informed lens, my intuition, the guidance and the faith that I have, but also it's you doing the work. And it's us working together to find out what are those legs.
Yeah.
So providing that safe place for clients to go into, well, what's there? Where does it feel right to start? We start there, and often we're taken back to the place.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. I love that I can work content free. I love that I can work with survivors of all walks of life. I had one woman that was trafficked for 12 years.
Wow.
She didn't have to share the details, but the freedom, you could see it. Lines just disappeared from her face. It was almost like she'd had a facelift. You know, the shoulders go back, the spine grows. We just come into this physical freedom, but also the emotional freedom. And then the freedom for our future, that we can go out and we can see the world. The color comes back into the grass and the sky, and the wind feels different because we've changed. It's a biological, neurostructural change that happens. And that, in my own experience, didn't happen with talk therapy or pharmacology, right? I was medicated. Medication for me blocked out all of the bad, which was great, but it blocked out all of the good.
Yeah.
Just couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And so for these clients, it's all different walks of life. I don't have a specialty. There are some havening practitioners out there that do specialize in certain things. There's a havener for tinea. There's a havener for birth. There's a havener like a birthing like doula type style. I don't know too much about it. Then there's haveners all different types of walks, working on all different things. But I don't specialize because I truly know that havening can support anyone in all different walks of life. And I love having that freedom to work with people, because it really comes down to that baseline of Emily, the event, the meaning, the landscape, and that sense of inescapability.
Yeah. That's great. So for someone new to the concept of neuro self-care, could you explain what it means and how it complements your work with havening techniques to create lasting change for clients? Because I love that neuro self-care.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, really, neuro self-care is a practice that combines neuroscience with self-care techniques. Pretty simple, but it also like to support the mental and emotional wellness. So it focuses mostly on the knowledge of the brain and how the brain works to then manage the stress, to regulate our emotions, our nervous system, to improve our resilience. So when things happen in the future, we'll be okay. So it's really using techniques like our breath, body-based relaxation, havening techniques, of course. Aim on that nervous system, relaxation, rejuvenation, to take people and have this new lens of mental health, that we can really support ourselves through the natural ability for the brain to heal. The brain is like plastic. We used to think it was like, once it was set, it was done. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. But the brain is plastic, and resilience is such a core factor. It's played such a big role in my life. I actually live by the quote of some of the best days of my life haven't happened yet, but some of the worst days of my life haven't happened yet either. So how can I be okay when those hard days come?
Yeah.
How can I be okay? I've got, my parents are still alive, my siblings, right? I've got my beautiful dog, right? Life tells you that dogs won't last as long as humans. And then there's wonderful days ahead. My future husband is out there somewhere. There's these wonderful days that are coming, but also these really hard days.
Yeah.
So resilience is what we need to work on. So when those hard days do come, we don't crumble.
Yeah.
We don't crumble. We don't need a week in bed. And if you want to have a week in bed, by all means, go for it, right? Grief is very real. And I'm not just talking about people passing away, but, accidents, people saying harsh words to you, being belittled, being scrutinized, losing a job, failed relationships, whatever it is, those things happen. It's life. We're not here to not suffer, but we're not here to only suffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we've had, even if you look at the ACEs study, an incredible study that is done, trauma-informed, when we've experienced things, adverse childhood experiences, studies show that life can be a lot harder for those people, but we can change those memories from a neurobiological level, but also an emotional level. Therefore, it doesn't need to impact. We can reduce, the impacts of, these numbing approaches that we have, these desires to get out of our mind.
Because sometimes, that is when you are beaten down and the resilience is low and you have had some significant childhood trauma or just trauma in life, then it is almost, it feels, it's easier to take the medicine than the vitamin, right? Yeah. And havening is the vitamin in a lot of ways, because it builds that sustainability in your life. And I understand some people do need medication, antidepressants, anti-anxiety. They absolutely do, in my belief. However, how can we also support that? It's not just what one thing, is it? It's then having these beautiful self-care practices
Yeah,
that can
absolutely.
help support you to, like you say, see the grass is greener and the sky is blue again.
Yeah.
Elle, I know that your YouTube channel is got some great havening videos on there, and I know on your website, so people can have an experience of that. You also work with people clearly one on one and train people in this modality. So, I'm going to put in the show notes? So, for anyone who's interested in working with Elle, which I highly recommend, in the show notes will be linked because you can do on Zoom, you can do distance, and of course, in person, you're here on the Gold Coast, and your videos and then your training. So even for our, lots of beautiful women listen to this who are already in the wellness industry. So it can potentially be another, would you say it would? So for instance, I think straight away of a yoga teacher. And remember I said to you, I have heard of havening before we met because I'd had a yoga teacher in my studio on Chevron years ago and told me about this. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I've heard about this. So I think she was keen. I don't know if she ever did, but she was really keen on it. So in terms of that, who do you tend to train that it would be a great, I guess, another string to their bow, feather to their cap?
Yeah, great question. Really, anybody. So with havening, and the way that I teach it is that there's two levels. You can come and learn havening because you want to use it with your children, your friends, your family, or yourself, that you want to have this deeper understanding of this technique because there's many protocols within it. Or you want to work with clients, so that would then be stage 2. But the training is the training, and then the certification process comes after that. So I run trainings online and in person, and so people can train with me and then become certified with my guidance as well. So it really is, for everybody. I even had just a training just last month, and one of my clients had been coming, and she's a real verbal processor, which isn't really what we do in havening. And I'd said to her, knowing that she'd be a very wonderful and natural havener in time, but I said, why don't you come to the training? I said, you're going to get so much out of it. I said, you're going to learn this technique, this modality, the processes, understand it, which is going to enhance your knowledge. I've been seeing this client for a little while, more getting places, but she's in the midst of a lot of life. She came to the training, the amount of self-havening that she has since done, as well as then she came back in for a session. She sat down, she knew exactly what she wanted to work on. Her session was like the best session that we've ever had because she had an understanding. So for us, because havening looks so deceptively simple, we don't tend to do the things that are so simple for ourselves. So, that was a client of mine that has just tremendously benefited from attending the training. But then there's other, wonderful practitioners out there that, as you said, it's another feather in the hat.
Yeah, tremendous. So anybody who's listening, definitely check out Elle's website. It'll be in the show notes, and your beautiful videos. And if you call to it, go and see Elle. I highly recommend it. It's a pretty special, it's an incredible experience, really.
It has to be experienced.
Yes,
There's no words, there's no testimonial you could hear. Yeah. It has to be experienced.
Yeah. And I would imagine each and every one is just so unique. No
two sessions are the same. There's no blueprint.
No. Oh, Elle, I want to say a big thank you for talking to us today about havening and all that you bring to the world, you incredible woman. Like I've said to everyone, you'll be able to find Elle. And Elle, anyone who's considering having havening, is there something that you would suggest to them?
Just do it.
Do it.
Just do it. Don't sit on it. Don't wait on it. If this has spoken to you, reach out, book a discovery call. I offer them. I know that with the, questions come, yeah, use your discernment. But yeah, everyone always says, I wish I had have done this sooner.
Yep, just do it. I love it. Thank you, Elle. Thank you so much for your wisdom. And no doubt we will be seeing more of you. I will be seeing more of you. I don't know about our listeners, but I will be. But thank you, Elle. Thanks for sharing today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this podcast sparked some curiosity and had you thinking. I have worked with women for years, and I've worked with hundreds of women as a coach, a body confidence coach, and as a yoga teacher. And there's one thing that women have in common. Most of us, 96% of us, don't have a great relationship with our body. We judge it, we put it down, and we are not in harmony with it. If you would like a better relationship with your body, I invite you to join me for the Body Love Bootcamp. I have created this course that you can watch in the leisure of your own home and work through the processes in your own time, and then reach out when you're ready to have a conversation. It has 3 pillars. It is about our mindset, meditation to soothe our soul and our sweet, sweet heart, and start to put in some new thought patterns around our beautiful body. And then the third is the movement, which is yoga. One of my favorite ways to free out any stuck energy and start to appreciate this gorgeous body of ours. The Body Love Bootcamp is ready and waiting for you to join. In the show notes here, there'll be a link. Click through. I would absolutely love to have you join me, and I would love to support you and walk the path. Together, we are building better relationships with our bodies, for our daughters, for our nieces, and for ourselves. This work impacts future generations. It's time we take our power back, reject diet culture, question beauty standards, and really look at what wellness means to us. Join me.